Hello guys, my name is Anna and I vlog daily from Ukraine since the start of brutal Russian invasion. Because I believe the world has to know more about Ukraine and our life in this challenging but very important for the global world order times. Honestly, sometimes I still cannot believe I'm living through it all, but like air raid alerts and news remind me about that daily. If you support Ukraine, please subscribe and share the videos that you consider important. And today I want to speak a little bit more about Wagner and their new location in Belarus, because those of you who follow me for a certain period of time know that I live really close to Belarus. I'm located in the western part of Ukraine, which can be considered a semi-dangerous place, but we do have Russian attacks, missile attacks from time to time. And sometimes we have this waves of informational attacks that soon Belarus will come here and so on. My region borders with Poland, which is good, and with Belarus, which is not that good. And traditionally, I'm very attentive to different updates on what is going on the Belarus border. So the very first thing I would like to tell, and maybe some of you don't know, that it is not the first time that Wagner groups stand on the border with Ukraine. It was real back in summer, in spring of 2022, and actually many regular Ukrainian troops had to stay on the border with Belarus, including in my region, which is like not having active war, and they were kept here because Wagner Group were standing on the border from the Belarus side. So it is not something super new. But starting from, I guess, summer of the previous year, 2022, it was more or less obvious that they simply remain on the border and do not plan direct attacks. And one of the main reasons for that, they are failing their priority territories. They did not manage to keep Kyiv. They were fighting and losing the territories that they managed to occupy at the very first days and weeks of invasion, because like the whole world believed this irrational special military operation will not happen. But when we grouped, when our allies started helping us, they had to remain and fight for the territories they captured at the beginning of this war. So my region remained calm to some extent, and now they have returned to Belarus and they start threatening not just Ukraine, but also Poland, the Baltic countries. And what does it mean from like a Ukrainian perspective? At the moment, I don't think they will attack anyone, not saying Poland or Lithuania, but even my region. Why? Because there are not so many Wagner soldiers in Belarus, like 5,000, which does not decide anything in this type of war. Because to those who doubt Russian war in Ukraine, I think is the next after the Second World War in size and in number of victims of Russist regime. So at this moment, it was just a political decision, and Putin was totally devastated and extremely vulnerable during the coup. He did not expect this was possible, and the solution to send Prigozhin and Wagner to Belarus demonstrate that Russia is not a legal state at all. Because come on, first we have this claims that Prigozhin betrayed Russia, that it is a military coup, that the criminal case is open against him, and like his apartments were searched, his money was taken away, and 20 years of or something in prison was mentioned as a term for him for the actions he did in his march towards Moscow. I will remind you that he actually killed more than 40 Russian soldiers on the way and destroyed a couple of helicopters, which makes it a real military coup. And then out of the blue, Batman Lukashenko appears, well, like a totally dependent on Putin creature. They pretend he is a negotiator. He cannot be, because he's not influential, he's not independent. So it's just like a character, a cartoon character that appears when needed. So perhaps there was a different kind of negotiations between Prigozhin and Putin, or some other criminal org elites. And this criminal is allowed to go to Belarus, and then he comes back to Moscow, and we don't know what is happening to him at the moment, but they decide to close the criminal case without court, without anything. Can you imagine something similar in any of democratic, or at least a bit democratic countries? No. That's why Russia lives in this magic world. Like, what is the negative word for magic? So that's what I meant. And they sent Prigozhin and his troops to Belarus, where they are supposed to train Belarus army. And Prigozhin, in his address to Belarus soldiers, claimed he will make them second largest, strongest army in the world. It seems I have heard this somewhere. Well, like orcs like naming themselves second or first or something, but perhaps these are like some kind of orc competitions. I'm not good at that. So anyway, they pretend they are going to train there. There is a person responsible for the Belarus direction, and I even put down the name of his he is Chupko, and he was fighting in Syria and Chechnya, and now he is training Belarus and Wagner soldiers to become the threat to the world. And another interesting thing, and let me know, would you like to see a video on the meeting of Putin and Lukashenko in St. Petersburg recently? And actually I enjoyed watching it because it was pretty fun. But anyway, they try to create this image of danger, not just for Ukraine, but also for Poland and Lithuania. And Lukashenko even claims that it's so difficult for him to keep Wagner soldiers from a march on Warsaw. And I feel like, what? These Wagner soldiers love marching, from what I see. First they loved marching on Moscow and then stopped. Now they want to march on Warsaw, then they will decide to march on, I don't know, Berlin. Maybe they are just into hiking or marathons, or maybe you should send them on Olympics with a Wagner flag if Russian flag is forbidden. Anyway, I think that a real threat of Wagner groups in Belarus is for Lukashenko, actually, and his regime. They will definitely control him. They are a threat to him because, come on, Belarus is not a big country with weak army and small army, and of course it cannot fight against professional Russian groups. And Wagner uses it for its own purposes. They say, we have been fighting really good. Now the things that are happening in Ukraine are a shame for Russian army, and we don't want to be a part of that. So we're using this time to train Belarus people, to train ourselves, and possibly continue somewhere in Africa, or maybe return to Ukraine after the changes. And these changes are perhaps meant Shoigu out of his position or out of the window, like choose the version that is more likely in Russian realities. But anyway, it's important to understand that this Wagner group is definitely a real threat to Lukashenko, and perhaps now he will be more careful to the desires of his boss, criminal boss, Kremlin goblin Putin. Also, it is claimed that Wagner groups are recruiting Belarus people who want to fight against Poland and Lithuania. Not just Ukraine, but this, typical collective West that Russia hates so much. They always need an enemy, and they are not looking for problems inside their brain where they definitely exist, but they are trying to find excuses outside and invent enemies everywhere. Anyway, thank you so much for your support, and thank you for your attention. I know that many people who watch these videos daily are not subscribed. Please do. This is the easiest way to demonstrate your solidarity with my country, and this makes videos of this type more visible, and once again reminds the world that this war continues and we still have to be united to stop Russian monsters. And I have good news. We have the 600th customer friend on our merch shop, and this person will receive a book about Ukraine from us. And I'm so much worried to pronounce the surname properly. And this is Steven Pallavicini, and we will contact you. And thank you so much for the support that you demonstrate to Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons. Subscribe to my Twitter, Threads, and Instagram. I am really active there and I share different kind of content. And let me know, would you like to have a conversation with me this Saturday live? Because I missed you and I think there are lots of updates that we can discuss. So please let me know in these comments, are you available this Saturday evening according to Ukrainian time zone? Thank you so much once again for being friends. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and Slava Ukraini!